the Master of Engineering.
Okay, we should get started. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for coming, everyone. We should get started. For two, just let me know when you want me to stop. You raise hand, then I'll stop. Okay. I'll do welcome first, then Lesley, then Ian will talk. Okay.
That'd be good.
All right. My name is Jade Lee. I'm the project manager of this forum. Thank you, Lesley, for putting it up. Okay. Yeah. And this project is not just me organizing, it's a few different cultural group leaders coming together. Such as Yabu here, who's very helpful, and then Tamil Association, Nepali Association, Hoba Muslim Association, etc. So several cultural leaders coming together, and Sri Lanka Association. So we decide this is a time to talk about employment and then starting business again.
Okay.
And also greetings to people online. We want to have this forum because we found it's difficult to find jobs, seems there's no jobs around. And two, if we want to start our own business, because there's no jobs around, how do we get to the market? Yeah. And today's session actually is the last of these 10 Saturdays we've had so far. And the first 5 Saturdays, we talked about what kind of economy Tasmania will become, what will be the jobs of the future. And the next Saturday, including today, next 5, we talk about what are the resources out there to help us to find work, to get trained, or what kind of resource to help us to start our own business. Not the need of the need we come out of the one in of the dano, get a milu atamani, Takaro Jalem Miller Valley Seclole, may Blonny, a premier of Masiwani, Takaro Jalem Muller, Bagabasa, Matamalu, in here, Tamalu of Tepiawa. The reason we want to do these two topics is one, we found that a lot of people coming here with skills but cannot be used in Tasmania. You just cannot find jobs in that area. And on the other hand, since we can't find jobs, we want to start our own business or look for jobs and need the resources for that. But the thing is, resources are all different kind of places. Even local Tasmanians will get overwhelmed a bit. So we want to help people to get it all together and then show people. Yeah. Well, I had to pay the pint and all the tapita, what the owner had to pay what to order back. Make a ballet, Hutama Bele. Turn the mamma had to pay the how to see why you buy my little thing. What has many Apodale, they were my Novano, a corner of a back of a row on a back of Hotida, but a bundle of clay jaleni, a redumo. These 10 Saturdays, they're actually all pilot projects, meaning we're testing, go to each different communities to see what your needs are like, what you would want to hear more after hear us, these sessions. Only Pasado data kind of blue Mongoli mono, where Bakulu the glue, Ataloa Jale, the Edotina, Aram Leda Milani, Patina, that is funny. Yeah. So that's why it's very important after you come to the session, please give us your feedback forms. Because my plan is to gather the information and then write up, a report and then submit to the relevant government office to ask for more support. We can do more of this.
but low what they pan Baba Quell or Baba Tepia, but he logged out of Blonu, the Vada Sawadan is like a Kito of Do, or whether they pay below Tamane, below Tam Dadim Dadu did the Pane, but Tapa Plagola live level more to kitchen carnival of Do.
So without further delay, I would want to introduce our two speakers today. First is Miss Lesley Hazelwood, and then the second speaker is in the back. We'll talk later. I'll just mention his name briefly, Mr. Ian Whitehouse. And both of them have more than 20 years of experience in employment service, career training, and also starting their own business.
I do a key on it at what I like Copro, can go Hutama dile, may blood in the Edotama when in a Gamma Lumule, maybe when Edoma Sibaji Chicopun in Gabasara Dilene, or when it Napa within.
So that's why we are really, really grateful that they support our forum in the past 5 weeks, coming here every Saturday to share with us their experiences.
Possibly what they were do Malano, but Marata meet the Mila, what the blue glanim, are they when they tell or they what in Yawa more possibly what they were mono.
Right. So Lesley will first talk about the job finding tips. It will be an overview. You know, what kind of key tips are out there. If you want more in-depth kind of discussion, Lesley is starting her own workshop very soon.
Well, Leslie, I work at Taylor here, Bacala, Tapidama, Upole, Bahudile.
Lastly, but not least, I want to thank City of Hobart and then City of Glenorchy who support this community project. And I also want to acknowledge the Aboriginal community. We acknowledge and pay respect to the Tasmanian Aboriginal people as the traditional and original owners and continuing custodians of this land, and acknowledge elders past and present.
Was the blue hour dark Lunokini, who by our council, old top and much around here, they were talking the party, maybe what two lean up, what they were Hoko Bumia, Wangala, Tite, maybe Wangala, did a party to see what they were going.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jade.
You come.
Yep. Hello, everyone. Namaste to some, and I don't know the other words to say hello in different languages.
What a namaste.
So, as Jade said, I'm Lesley Hazelwood, and I'll be giving you a lot of information on slides, okay? If you have your phone with you, I encourage you to actually take a photo of the ones that I tell you. The reason there's so much information is because, as Jade said, there's a lot of different resources and there's a lot of information to cover. And because these sessions are going to be sent out to people and videoed, etc., I've put lots of information on the slides, much more than I normally would.
Aku ni terus tak kai ni no, wala fau di depan ni apa sih hawa bahasa nagi ni mak ni hama teram dia wak kepala dekar kani, terus kau betul no bapa perlu ni tak go, berapa kemana hama ya, awak kita tak taman ni balik pilih bapa ni begitu no bapa, perlu ti ada tak go le fau no.
Thank you. And I'm not used to the translator, so please put your hand up if I go too far. Okay. Oops. So I'm just going to click through these one after the other, if I can. Why is it not working so quickly? Okay. So, as Jade said, there were 5 sessions originally that gave some background information. So, the first few points are things that they've covered. Do you want to say that?
Awak dah mungkin ramai dia wili no, awak tadi ni yeti mo, tadi yeti ni awak dah ada wek telo awak dah mo.
So, Tasmania has an aging population. We're aging, we have more older people than there are in other states of Australia.
Awak Tasmania bunyi dah wah apa? Oh, anongi ane dia lah stay ha kerja dah berano.
Okay, so that means that there's, as people get older, they can't do as much work. So that's lots of opportunities in that, in the looking after those people, providing services to those people, but also they'll be moving out of the workforce. So that's vacancy.
အခုတနေဝါသပါဦးအခုနေပွဲတက်ခွတ်ရဦးလပနေတာမှာဝါသပွားရကိုဘွေဘလဒီပကဘာနေတာအတိဝတမလော့ကလေအာခီတီတီခေါနေဝါသပွားအခုနေပကနေတော့တမလဘဘကွာထွေမှာချအတိဝစစ်ပေါ့အနေတမလဲလောမတာဒီဖာနေပဲ
So there's not as many different cultures or as many people with this, who come from the same place in Tasmania as there is on the mainland. So that means that it's easier for you to go around the community and actually practice your English because you haven't got just your community to talk to. So you can go to your language shop, etc. You need to actually speak English, which is great.
Agar kan ibu dah demi banyak aku bawa mas tadi ni ya, pero malu kalau aku ada betul tu kau dah lah demi banyak kalau di beberapa hari bahasa dah mau tak kita ya mau dona no.
So Tasmanians leave school earlier than on the other states. So that means there's a lower amount of people who go to university, and a lot of people who come to Tasmania come to study. So that's another advantage for you. So those sorts of jobs that require higher qualifications.
Awak dah ni tu Tasmania punya. Wa mali apa phulot ba ha tho lo no wa tele tho uni dim na de do wa ba aku ne me ba la u class li le de apa to mi tho ne ta ma la apa to tho di pha de be nu lo wa be nyom ma de ta khata ya u ma.
So in this state we have a lot of government jobs or government agency jobs. So later on I'll show you the 3 different sorts of government jobs and where you can look for those. And it's a good idea to start at the bottom in those sort of areas and not necessarily just go for the job that you want. You can go casually to fill vacancies for a week or a month when someone's on leave, and then they'll know you. And if there's a job, it's easier to get in.
Awak dah pergi Tasmania buat benda tam pertama lo tam lo ni udah dunia no. Kalau nanti buat ini betul apa pun ni, nanti lo mah ti kalau betul pun nampak betul thau bama no. Nanti sarok kau ti kau buat takar kafe wa lo nanti lo curi over kelihatan tahu yo yo ni.
Has anyone had the opportunity to travel outside of Hobart?
Bahala Hobart kelihatan gajah be.
Can you put your hand up if you have?
Nyawa cuma, mati din di leh hawa jida.
Not very far from Hobart, there are farms. Yep, where people are growing things. That's the same all over Tasmania. So one of the growth industries is always agriculture. And we have a really good climate. When I was growing up, we didn't have hardly any wineries. But then they discovered, we did in the very beginning. Historically, we had wineries. But then people started growing Tasmanian wine, and now we have lots. So there's opportunities as well for other things that may come from your country to actually be grown, and then we can feed the people who are here and the people on the mainland. So agriculture is a growth industry.
Awak dah lo tetap pergi ni ya. Okay, buat tu tak pelari orang lo ni hani ni ta malu le mau tadi pani no. Me belum tu buat apa heti kalau kau kena ada, belum kau ni betul betul lidi orang je ni. Tapi kalau kau bunyi betul free, dulu ni betul tanya tu lah mana.
Okay, I talked about older people, so aged care, disability, they're often talked about as growth industries as well. So looking after people who are older or who are sick in some sort of way.
Kau ni terang mesti awak tahu ni ya. Awak apa aku ni, lah awak apa ta lo ni tam le malah no ni lah berkuat hari tu kau ni kira pertama.
Okay, and then the government sometimes talks now about increasing our manufacturing industry again. We did have a lot of manufacturing previously. Now we have some major ones which I'll talk about a little later.
Aku ni tak tu hal dia mana dia tam jauh dia mana dia terang awak perlu ke bama aro hilo no. Walua aro apa pun.
So the last point is there are many applicants for every job. That would be the same in your country, wherever you come from, as here. So don't get despondent if you don't actually get a letter back or something to say. Okay?
တမရခိုင်ရခိုင်နေပါမတော်နေပါတော့အာမတန်လောကောတော့လောကောကြီးနော်နိုင်နမတနေတာစီစနမတနေပါဖပါနေလို့စာချေပါတော့လို့စာဟာကောပါ
But you can actually get feedback. So if you can, see why you did not get that job.
แต่เราต้องเนี่ยเอาไว้เนี่ยมันบ้านนี่ถ้ามาค่ะเนี่ยตอนนี้มาแล้วเนี่ยตีกว่าตีดอกตีหมอเนาะ
And that's the sort of thing we'll talk about in my workshop. How to find out how well you went.
အခုเนี่ยถ้ามึงมา workshop ค่ะเนี่ยคุยเต็มอย่างแบบหมอยี่ต่อเราวิลีนี่ถ้าสิเสบ้านนู้นคุยเลยบ้านตีกว่าดีเลย
The last point on the slide is Tassie is a great place to live and work. So we'd love to. เราคิดแต่การอย่างนั้นแล้วเอาไว้ทัสเมเนียไม่แต่เราละปกติโอ้มือแต่เรามองแต่โอ้ซีมอง So the first point I want to make is you have to look at your individual current situation.
น้องอีเตอร์เนี่ยมากกว่าเราแต่อุตส่าห์แต่อุตส่าห์เนาะ
Okay, so one size doesn't fit all.
เอาไว้ได้แต่คัลเลอร์นี่เอาไว้ได้แต่นี่คัลเลอร์แบบมั้งเนาะ
I'm going to flick through. Oh, I'm going to flick through all of these if I can. Do you want to do it? What's wrong? It's okay.
Hard.
Really hard. Yeah, sometimes and sometimes not. Sorry, we have a little bit of a delay. You're taking them off? Okay, so each of you will have different family situations, community networks. Can I go through all of them? Yeah. Present work. You might have work or not, but you'll also have a financial situation. You either need money right now, or you can get money from home or somewhere else. Transport, you'll have a car or you won't. You live near a bus stop or not. Possible work locations are involved in that. Disabilities, for instance, do require a car. Okay? Aged care, maybe not, because you might be able to catch a bus to where the facility is. Previous work roles, don't forget the ones you had wherever you came from. Okay, you might be being educated here, but you also have other skills and experience. And volunteering an option, and we'll talk more about that later. Your physical size, your health, your fitness. That will assist you to do some work, and for some people it will mean you can't do that work. And we'll do the last one last.
เอาไว้ได้แต่ก็ได้ก็ดีสอบมาเนาะตอนนอนนี่เนาะอปอตัวบูได้ที่ผู้ขอผู้ตาอุตานี่ดีสอบว่าพูดก็ได้กันเนาะไม่แบบดูว่าตอนนอนเขาก็รู้ว่าตามาก็รู้ว่าจีเนาะไม่แบบตาลอตาเกลเนาะตามานี่โอ้ดีก็รู้ว่าเดี๋ยวตาเลตาเกก็แล้วกาตอนนอนเขาดูเอาไว้ตาเลตาเกลตามาแล้วเอาไว้ก็บ้านเลยเนี่ยเอาไว้เลยได้บัสกาตีจะนี่มีเนี่ยตอนนอนเขาดูนี่แล้วเนี่ยเนี่ยเอาไว้ตาผู้ว่าตีอุปาเจอเนาะตาติดตาบ้าอุปาเจอเฮเปอีน่าอีนี่เอาไว้ก็บ้าชั่วโมงเนาะอนุบาลเขาเราบ้ามามุตามากรอดีว่าสารโอ้ชีตอนนอนนี่เนาะไม่เราดูตาอุชูคลีตอนนอนนี่ขอบคุณตาอุตานักกินวัวเนาะตาอุชูคลีพอคุณเนี่ยตามาเลยตะกรดน้ำบ้านมาถึงนี่บ้านตอนเราตีบ้านโอ้ชีจังนี่เนาะ
And obviously some jobs require more English than other jobs.
ตามาตอนนอนนี่อาทิตย์นี้ว่าก็รู้ว่าไปแล้วนั่นแต่ก็เราว่าก็บ้าเนาะก็เราว่าก็บ้าอักลอนี่
But they all require usually you to have somebody who can say what you're like, somebody who can have worked with you or who has, because they're in your community, etc. as a person who can vouch for you, who can say, this is a good person, etc. So the last two words, references and referees, are actually different.
Có reference the referee khane nge data man ni teblo khone ne tro mu tra mu wa nyola woni kwa thau khane na mo wa ga wa ge lo ayimo do li class le na class da no ta khane mo.
So when I look at people from other countries' resumes often, and sometimes Australians, it says that you'll provide the referees later. Okay? Now, I encourage you not to do that. And I'll explain why. It's because sometimes people ring the referees before the last few applicants. So they can actually ring referees before they decide if they're going to interview you.
Okay. Cho tao referee the panel mo the dan mi tao resume li na li learn ta ma li ba ni wa la ku khone de ga ni ami le ga ba pat lo ho de no gi dim na de no ma le ta ma ku mi thi lo lo ho ni no gi te ni wa lu wa ko na ni wa ga se lo chu la na tra mu ba ka che do la u kho na de ga ni a de we lu wa re do ma ko ni no na di ba pa to ba da de kwe ni le ba.
So a reference is a piece of paper. It's a letter or something that says that you are a such and such type person. You know, it might be come from your association, etc. That is not as good as somebody whose name's there who can be spoken to. Because then if I'm the person ringing up, I can ask questions about you. Okay.
Awada community ne ba la u khone na ga mi si ni te ko la wa mi ba gi be adu yan ye ke de bwa ani ye tin yan ma da ja le u khona li ni le ne ho na bwa ma da bu ga ni ta ma ko mi se ko ya ni de ji di de si se ba wa ne no wa le u khone ne ga ni ga ba te ko la wa ba.
So everybody should actually try very hard to get good referees. Okay, how do you do that? If you don't know any people, then it's very hard. If you're not working, then you have nobody who can actually speak for you. But that's where volunteering comes in. And in some cultures, volunteering is not a good thing. Okay? But you need to do it for a specific purpose. So there's no point in going and volunteering for an organization if you don't actually speak to someone there and talk to them about what you're doing and how you're doing it and ask them questions and feedback. Because you need to actually have that person and tell them that you really want to have this person or this organization, and can you find me the right person to have a referee in that organization who can say that when they were working, they turned up on time, they were always, clean, neat, tidy, they did everything that was asked of them, etc. Okay, because that's the sort of questions that they're going to be asked.
Awada lo ta no tar khani no wa lo ko u khoni na ga ne mi ma da ma no blo mi tho chu no blo ba ni no awada ne ta u kho ro ba no ne ta u khoni ya ri ye ti ma da no blo ya u khoni no na bu wa le mi ya ako ne ta we ni mu ta ma glo ta ma ni sa tho kho ti kho bu phe ni ne le ma mu ta ma glo da ni di to wa da wa kwan phi da ma da ya le ne he sa to ba ta u glo so wa wa da ga la akwa thwe na ne le mu ta ma glo ba sa ta na ki ni awe ke ke yo ni na wa u kho pu no awe u kho ni na le mi de ke ni ta ma lo ni ako ne mi de hit lo ta ja ni ba kho du wa u kho ni na do no ga ba tu le na sa ro ta ma ni u ja ni ri do no la ne ta sa to mi u ni ne le mu ta ma glo ne le ni ba ma ko no awe ke do we na wa thau khan da wa u kho pu ta ga ni no.
Okay, so the status of your visa is really important. And it's really important whenever you think about doing something different to actually check that you can do that. Since we've been doing this, we've had some students who didn't know that they could work 20 hours a week, and maybe not everybody can. So you need to know what the status is with your work visa. And there might be as well, with your visa, not your work visa, and there might be some government assistance that you can get. even though you're not a permanent resident or an Australian citizen. Okay, so one of those, there's two here. So you can't actually, if you haven't got the right visa, you're not on some sort of benefit from the government, you can't go to job active. Job actives are often things like max employment, those sort of agencies. No, but you can get rapid response, maybe. So rapid response was extended for people who actually had been working here casually and lost their jobs, or even permanently, and lost their jobs because of COVID.
Patano wa chupulo ehe thao chur khalo pe no awe mara ne tnui ne khinui ne na we khichi de we klo ba akho ne awe he tho da jani kho ne we tinya aro no tablo de kho ne wa le tni ta ma che lo pdo ba de ne ade we tinya ma no kho bu lo ta chu ta cha lo pho ko ne wa ne ta ma che jani wa ma di ne no ade we ne ade we akle u la pdo ma che ne no la ade we ka ba du ne ma ta ma che ja le kho bu lo ta chu ta cha lo pho ko sa to ne no.
So rapid response, the government pays money towards you getting retrained for something else. Okay, if you're in that position, come and talk to me after, and I'll tell you how that works. Okay.
Awate lo chora ba chu phu ora pa no tablo kho ne ta ko ta ke du ma ke de te li ha ta ma de o ja ne ni a ko ne mi lo ta ma che ne ma le lo o mo no ba le kho phu ja le.
So there is a possibility as well that the employer that you're going to work for can actually get some money to put you on. It depends on your circumstances again. But you can do an adult apprenticeship. Okay? Apprenticeships mean that you're getting paid less than the normal person, but you're being trained at the same time.
Awa ra tan no ne awa sa tho ba ja le ne awa ka ma ta ma ne awa ka ba du ni da ma lu no awa ma lu ra tho ko ma ra tho ko ba sa na ge awa ke sa pa ba sa na ge awa ne la le na ri di to le ba no no gi ne kho bu lo awa ma ra tho ko awa ma ra tho ko ne ma lu ra tho ko ya ne no.
And traineeships as well, which are a shorter term. That's the only difference, basically. So the employer can be paid to put some people on who come from migrant backgrounds. Okay. Research. You need to research when you're looking for work options, obviously entry-level pathways, locations, information about when this particular job might be available. For instance, Christmas casuals. Lots of people, and now that we've started in letting people into the States for tourism, there'll be more hospitality, retail type jobs for Christmas. So you need to start looking for them, because what you really need is some work history here. Then you can go on to do something else.
Awara ke ne la khu ta ma lo ne no ta pa nyo ja le ta lo ja le myu le ta ma gu la ye ro ma ne ta pa nyo ne ta ma we ne mi ta lo we ne ta ma o wa no ke lo chora ke ne wa oro la ko bo yu di na di oro ke di wa he do du no to no wa le u pa tu ta lo ta le di pha ne ta ma o do du ne ne ma te nya ti ya o ye.
So you also need to research whenever you're going for a particular job. Just don't look at the job vacancy and the selection criteria. Look up the company. Find out all you can about it so that you can tailor your application or your interview, if you get one, to what they are and who they employ and where they sell their products or whatever. Okay?
Nang ba kwa ta ma lo khai ne he ta ma u pe ke lu le la ye chai thu kha u ya la ba lo ba sa de ya u ro kha ji ya u nang ba khu te nya chu mo de phlu la na tu no na ka le ma ta ma de ba ne.
One of the things they'll ask you when you get an interview is, tell me a little about yourself. So it's important that you know the sort of person that you are. And in some of the cultures that you come from, it's probably not usual to say, I'm a really honest person. I always do exactly as I'm asked, whatever it is. But in Australian culture, this is a very usual question, particularly at the beginning of an interview. Why? Because you know about yourself. So it's, you know, if you practice this part, you'll be much more less scared, more confident as you go through.
တခါနေတဲ့ဘာခါလာအဝက interview နဲ့ဝကကွာနာလောကဲတဲလောပြရနကြီးနဲ့ကျအဘလောနမတဲချွာလဲလဲလောမရငကမတဲကြီးလောနသာလောနိုင်ငကချနိုင်ငကချပါတဲ့ညာအဒိုရယမာရတော့ယတဲရတော့ယမာရချုနော်မိဘရဟာယဟဲမာဒတာစကတော့ဘာတာတဲ့ဖိုင်နမတဲလောတာလဲအနေလဲလဲတာဝနေရီဒိုမနော်
So there's many different ways that people look at personality. This is just one of them. And in this one, there's 4 different types of people. So you don't need to be able to read this. But basically, a director is a person who's goal-oriented. You always know where you're heading, okay? And usually a risk taker. So for some of you, if you're like that, it might be really important to listen carefully to Ian, because you might be one of those people who's going to be an entrepreneur, create something yourself. But in all organizations, you need that too.
အဝဒတာမလောခလနေနော်အိုဒဘငညောဒဘလကလနော်ဝပရပရာရာဝမနုနာနော်ဝမချရာကောအဒတိတဖာနေနော်အဝဒတာမအိုဝဒကောလောပူတယ်လမောနော်တာပတာပရာတိဖာနေ
So type B, socializer, is a person who likes people, who likes getting, you know, into communication with people. A thinker, type C, is a person who does detail really well. You know, a logical, always prepared, etc. And a D, supporter, is the person who's the stabilizer. He looks after the other people in the team.
ဝတာမလောတနနော်နေအကလူအဝညောရီတီရီတကောဝါဟဲပူရာဝါဟဲချာရနေဝဘတေရာဂီတေရာဘလီဇနေဝညောရီလူမလူရာတီတနနော်ဟောဒူနေအဝလူအဘငညောလဘချုံမိုရာဘပေတီနော်ဖာရာတာမလောနေနော်တနနော်ကလူအဝဒါလဝညောရကနေတနီနေဝဘဟာကွာတာမဘူးနေတာလောဟိုမနူလေဘဘဟာတေဘဟာမပွေရောဝဲဦးဇနေမြမအိုမြမြ
So down the bottom, there's a little type X. Nobody fits into necessarily one of those boxes. So you might be a person who's a bit of a risk taker, who also is very task oriented, who actually is quite logical in their thinking. So you might be a combination of all of those. But it's important to be able to talk like that. This is the sort of person, you know, to know yourself and be prepared to actually, because they will ask you particular questions and you need to say, because I'm very logical, what I would do is, okay, if that's the answer.
ဘငညောဝဲတနနော်နေလောတာဝဲမာရတီဘလကလူညာနာနေမိဘငညောဝဖူကြနေနေမတဲလောတာလောနော်တာဝဲနေဘာသာပိနော်တာလာတာတီတာမဟုတ်တော့နန်မတဲရနေမိမာတာဝဲနေမနေယမိဘမဝဲနေမနေတာမခိကဆာတာတိတဖတ်နေယမမခလလောဒိုတာတိတဖတ်နေ
Okay, so I might just put them all up. So this says how relevant it is to people and jobs. So somebody might say to you, what do you like doing best? So it's important for you to think about this. You know, all jobs have a variety of things that you have to do. And you might really like one part of that job and not necessarily like the others as much, okay? So understand what it is that you like as a person to do and look for those sort of jobs. For instance, if you don't really want to do any physical work, don't apply for a labourer job. Even if it's casual, you're not going to last very long.
အခုနေတာမလည်းကမနေကဘာတင်ညာနော်မမေဘာကညာနာတောချူခလေးကြီးနော်နဖောတာမကျဲမိတနေပါနေနတပါလေတော့ကမတော့တာမလည်းဘာချောတာခေဒီတဖပါနော်အခုနေတာမလည်းနမမေော်နေကဘာတင်ညာအခုနေပါမေတိကနာနမမေဖဲလေမျိုးလေယမမေလည်းတာခုလောတာကိုလောမိတမရလည်းတာမကျဲယမနေရနေကဘာတင်ညာတာခနေရီဒို
The second point, how do you think it would fit into this company? So it might be a very small company and only a couple of people. So you won't be able to necessarily go up into higher positions in that company. Okay? So you might use it as a stepping stone. Or you might actually get into a very big company and be with very many different areas and be able to go from here to there to get where you want to go. So it's that, how do I fit? Where does my job and me as a person fit into this organisation, because they might ask you that as well.
The blood con a tiqua and the Kamara, Vegetama law, close blue can, the Nana, can nip a clue, and the Mani Pele Baracale. Now the Bachumoting or Yaglatin, the top on the Bachumuba, Tamalana Sarachun in Coca Tholo, Hunine, Naganalan Mabanyon, Mouth, the Chunching or Lonnie Longobam Sarachumona.
So if you've done your research with the company, when they ask you a question, or you might be put it in your covering letter, the letter that goes with your CV or resume, something like, I like supporting people, working with figures and having a structure to work within. I'm a very careful person, check every answer twice. Working with other people, particularly in a good team, is what I like best. In a previous role, I was a successful leader, so I'd take a picture of that one. So you're putting all of the bits of you into the answer, and you're making sure it fits with their company.
When I need the blood con a global and a gate, Lena Yamati, Tamadi the Pani,
Anyone else want to take a picture?
Yamata Tamadi the Pani, no, Yamata Kodawa Agasi, no, Yamale Toletowa Agane, Takotake Udi Yamati, Talan Manoni or Tinema or Tidi the Pani, the Tati Tabani, a Ridul and about Tunulan, the level and Tamahani.
So take a picture of this one as well, because on the bottom it tells you where this checklist is on the seek.com website, and you can then take this test so you actually understand how those blue points on the side fit. That
color aware na kamajale taman ma widile na garelu mulu bangnya jale nata aware pati patan ta relu mulu baga jale no tadi depane na gaba mano ma kha kala no asro ba opun.
So the first one is organising work skills. Can anyone think of something that might fit under that area?
Aware tama ba kala awani no tata garo
No, or you just can't put your hand up. Pardon? Multitasking? Yeah, yeah. Time management? How you, all of those things about how you organise work. What to do first, what to do second, collecting data, research, etc. So, you wouldn't start doing the job before you actually worked out what order was meant to be done in. Okay.
Also working out priorities, what needs to be first,
tak robo the kaka na gamane na gabate nya na le dan mala jani tiba wasaro mara jale sa tom ni le ba ma chum da din na gabate nya mo no.
Okay. So I would encourage you to go to this site. If you need someone to help you, I'd encourage you to do that as well, so that you can actually understand those sorts of words, because all of the selection criteria will fit somehow into that. Whether they state it on the job or they just say we'd like someone who can do whatever, you can then use that information.
Ako ne nagabate nya tama lor kani alua bang nyo da tita ba minna nagachana nagabate nya ya ta tita ba o minle ne agaba po da mo o mewe tama we ma ti do awe attack ro bu ne ta tita ba o do ya o ne me to do ne po da ki ba lo mo ya.
And I've put up this little yellow bit because it's really important that if you have a migration story that shows something that fits with one of these areas, that's the sort of thing we can understand easily. We haven't been, most of us haven't been, no, that's not true. I'm actually in the minority now, being Tasmanian born, but lots and lots of people can't understand and wouldn't have the courage to go and live somewhere else. So they don't know what's involved. So if you can think about that, then it's a really good example that you can use. And it might be, the jobs that you had previously, before you came, showed those things as well.
The blood calling about the Piala, and Madame, Tiloko Bunijai, the new, okay, Lamani, a lot of Jale, Tati the Pani, Mite Honey, Watama Co, a Grudi Pani, a Wagatina, Batale Coplu, Batama, Lotodile, Lepo Upe, the Pepe.
So this is the slide to take a picture of as well. So this is, because I said earlier, there's lots of government jobs. So I'm not sure that everybody knows there's 3 levels of government in Australia. So there's Australian government or federal level, which is Mr. Morrison, the Prime Minister, and the departments that are federal departments. And then there's the state. So you have Mr. Gutwin, who's the Premier, and a lot of departments there who are doing all sorts of things like hospitals, education, you know, the agriculture department. In fact, most industries and jobs within those industries can be found in, well, some form of it can be found in all levels. And then you've got the 29 councils. Okay? Now, one of the things that I would encourage you to understand is that the federal government jobs, there's not very many in Tasmania outside the major capital cities. And there's more in Hobart than anywhere else. Okay? And we apparently have more scientists than anyone else in the country. But within the state government, there's different departments in different places. Okay? But still, there's more big buildings, more people in the state government in Hobart as well. The councils, some of them are small and some of them are bigger, but often they have similar vacancies. So if you're an engineer, they might have, or a town planner, or even if you're wanting to work on the roads for the councils, they would be all over the place. Okay, so it might be a good idea, and it might not, depending on your circumstances, to look outside of Hobart and Launceston. So that's why it's important to have the URLs at the bottom. And a lot of these organisations and government departments have temporary lists. So you can put your name down for, like the Royal Hospital, for instance, has a temporary list, as well as the Department of Health and Human Services, which is the department that overrides the hospital. Has everybody got the photos? Yep. Okay, so this is really important. In Tasmania, we come from an agricultural sort of background, and we've always been a little bit away from the mainland. So, and a lot of you would have experienced, we like having new people. And sometimes some people are a bit reserved. They're not, they don't immediately say hello. But that's no reason why you can't say hello and smile. Okay? So these little pictures explain the sorts of areas where you can find some community connections. So if you have children and they go to school, obviously someone goes and picks them up. And they might play sport. So say hello to the people who are there. You know, the other people, get to know them a little bit so that you can, you know, have a conversation with them and say, you know, to them, you know, I'm looking for work, do you know any vacancies? Or they might ask you, what are you doing? And you can say, I'm looking for work. Okay. Jade, were you going to say something? Okay. So the middle one is the business associations. Get to know what, you know, if you're an engineer, there's an engineering association. If you're want to look for accounting jobs, you know, there's different accounting associations, etc. Get to know those people as well. Now, some of them will have costs that are involved, and that might put you out for the moment. But find people in the community in the sort of areas that you want to work in. You never know where a job's going to come from in Tassie. It often, less than 25% of vacancies are advertised, is about my figure, my opinion, because people often know people. Now, we're not going to get, if I know someone, I'm not going to get you the job. But I can say, why don't you give this person, you know, speak to this person. If you then do well, and that's up to you, then obviously you wouldn't have got there without me. You wouldn't have got that first connection. So it's important to do this. And the bottom one is sort of like just any sort of market, any sort of event, any sort of opportunity. Yeah, yeah.
Di ba ni kisiyan lang yan ni Plawili. Ya ya tinya o da ya puno o ne tinya no to ko la mara ti mara ba no puno bla do ba nya pwe ni ya. Aku ni arido mala ba gre lu mulu da ba ga no. Ne le le ta gro gro la bla chen na le fan le ti kwa yi lu wa ta ma no ne ta ti kwa ti do me o di ni ni ho ne ta ri lu mulu me o ma ne ta ma ne ko bo che ta de na no. Aku mi ne ma tinya kisiyan lang yan ni wa la awa da cái mương tôi cọp là này vò là này nè vật tao mà thực sự là bảo cho nhá là cái gì lúa bằng nhau đi bà này quậy đi ra này người ta nói nó ở khu này ở đây là ba đi luôn một luôn đó bọn
I met a skilled migrant volunteering at Binny's op shop, and he was very helpful to a friend of mine who was in a wheelchair. We got talking. I heard he was an engineer, his skills accepted here, hence a skilled migrant here. But whenever he went for a job, they said, you must have some experience in Australia before we can give you a job. I just happened to know a retired engineer. I was able to connect him, and that retired engineer had some mates, and eventually he got a job.
No, atramu cakap yang saya dah lama awak ni awak kela engineer dor ganya. No, awak dah kalau la awak dah tas sekolah ni awak dah artinya lah dia tahu awak ni tak mau macam ni. Toko su toko ni tak mau posanya ni no.
It's the Multicultural Employment Service. It's just this one by Catholic Care. So if you're interested, remember to take one. Maybe some of you already know that service. And some other programs, like Lesley mentioned, MRC's coaching, events and video. I don't know how many of you know about this one by MRC. Yeah, it's English for jobs in building and construction. So that can be very helpful as well. Yeah. Make sure to check all the resources. A lot of them are here. And just a quick note, Lesley did say Job Active earlier is only available to permanent residents, or is it?
People who are getting some form of payment from the government.
Oh, okay. Even though you don't qualify to apply for jobs or whatever resources here, another speaker we had earlier in the month mentioned it's still a good place to look for information and then to learn what's out there. And that will prepare yourself when you're ready, when your visa allow you to do it. So just want to mention that.
Excellent. Cheers. Thank you.
Awak dah kaya ni lah, tapi lelah amal sifat ni, aku ada Catholic care tadi depan ni, bakal waktu tamak aku keleu kelelon ni, ni teramu paham ni, bermikir ni begini sih, yani no.
So this is another example of what Yaba was speaking about. You might, if you watch television, you might have actually, or read the paper, you might have seen this. Blue Line Laundry, a place that cleans, washes, dries, etc., all of the linen for hospitals and restaurants and all of that sort of place. And they had 25 migrant workers with 31 untapped degrees. And they didn't know that until they needed to find some more people for their office, basically. So a marketing person, a IT person was the sort of jobs they were looking for. And suddenly this lady is one of the 3 people who got the job. Because when they went to advertise it, said, hey, you know, we can do this. And they already had that, they understand that industry. They'd worked there doing the linen, doing the washing, the ordinary. Okay? Now there's many examples that I can give. One of an engineer that I helped to find work, his wife actually was learning to drive through a driving school. And the person who was teaching her to drive knew me. In the conversation about teaching her to drive, he said, I'd like to learn how to make your food. So she said, well, you can come home and I'll show you how to do that. And while they were having food, he met the man, and the man said he was an engineer. He was the skilled worker who was actually here. And he, my friend said, oh, I know someone who might help you. Now, look how far away that is from me. I didn't meet those people, but I actually helped him to find a job. My ex used to be married to the father of my granddaughter. He's American. He came here having been in the Navy. No other skills really, except for teaching in the Navy. But the American Navy had IT, the internet, before anyone else. So when he came here, he had, you know, I got him to go for a casual job in the government. 20 odd years later, he's still there at a much higher level. He went to replace someone for 4 weeks. After the first week, they said, we'll find you a job. Okay.
Our tap of Muya, Nita Mania, Tamala Karakapune, or our Shura, or Watomibu, or our Magashora, or here, or Washota, Potali, or Shui, Watomibu, or Minonia, or that is Pani in the Duneva Femono. Our Ted Dumkane, Adujata, one Elena had to solve our Madamala, our silk ball of the Tarkanel here. Kakak ada fenomena, awak had to Australia bloody to law, when it am bloody, when never penny when you about Laura. Not to la Kagani Junior, a taman in need of a thought how good we on here, then to la awada, Ula thought how long in a mono.
Okay, so take a picture of this one.
I already don't know, do what I want.
So the thing to remember is it's competitive. So use the online, anything that you can to help, and get people to help you as well. So see if one of the things that I find often when people send me resumes or things like that is the job says, they send the job description as well. The job says you need to be very detail oriented. And in their covering letter or their resume, there's spelling mistakes. Now, that's because people don't actually get English first language people to check the spelling and the grammar. I would encourage you to at least find somebody in the community who's willing to help you with that. Or a place that you can go to get that checked, because that's important. If they say they want someone that's detail oriented and there's a whole pile of resumes here, and I'm going through those resumes and that one's got a mistake, it's going to go out like straight away. You're not going to get there. So it's those small things as well that are important. So, and be clear on the type of work you're looking for and why you're looking for it now. You know, if you actually do need to have money to survive, pay the rent, etc., then anybody can understand that if you're higher qualified, but you need to get work now. You know, so don't hide the fact. Have different resumes for different things as well. Emphasize different points. If you can manage to stay financially okay until you get the sort of work that you go for that work. But, you know, don't necessarily go for the, let's say, $60,000 job. You might go for the similar job that's just underneath at 40,000. You might have more chance. So think about it that way and research everything that's involved. Tell everyone you meet and be known out there in the community.
Awara ta ka ne na mi toro li ni na ori do ma no no na resume ni da ban ba ko li me plan mi lo ti lo se no ko mi ban ba ma ba lo ko la ba lo ti lo se na li me plan mi de ka ma ne lo ta ma ko ko lo wa da ga de ko pu ba ha ko li ka mu ka ma ha to ra ni ta ti ko ne mu da hin ta ma no a ki ti ko ne ta ma la na ku o de da pha ni ni da ba na mi lo wa chi da no ba hi hi le da no na lu o sa ta mu da no a wa ni na ba yu ta ma phe ko do na ni ma ka la no me to me ba kho du ni na me to lo lu ta mu ma no ora tin hi len hi me ne lo kho du ni ta ma le wa ta na o no ko ni ni hi ta se ko to ha khu o pre da ba no.
Can I just emphasize a point? You can, whether you're studying or looking for work, get somebody to help with your grammar, sentence construction, any of that sort of thing in your English. So really important to find someone because it will help from study onwards.
Abdi do mala tu ba khu no tu kwe mi de ba ne no tu ba ha kwe na chu da to ro na chu gi ta da kha ne de ta mu la ru ba me ga ma ne no a khu ne ha khu ne ba ga nyo ga la kwe ne tu li me pla lo ti lo se lo ga to di ta ma ne no.
Okay, so young guys that are here, I would encourage you as soon as you can to apply for like McDonald's, Kentucky Fried or KFC, any sort of work, okay? And if over the holiday period you can pick apples or do something, I would encourage you to do that as well. So that as you go through, and everybody else, that will assist you to already be known out there in the job seeking world. My granddaughter is just turning 14, just about to turn 15, and she's just applied to McDonald's. There is no, you know, I was once with the McDonald's owner, and he said, oh, I have to take this phone call. And it was from America, and it was a hospital in America asking if one young guy who'd worked for him in McDonald's in Melbourne for 5 years, asking questions about that person. There were 2 people left for the job, and the McDonald's guy got it.
What a solid panic, the about me the paper, local letter, nay, Puaro Mamano, she done it Chilina or Limini, Saromana Linia, or whenever he Baba, San Pochin in Jida with an Ari Jara for Baggy Nibagi, Sato with a Korkala or Wallamo, or Gabano Machu.
I think I forgot to say it was a doctor's job.
Tamani Tamala, no?
It wasn't a cleaning job or something. So the next things are important as well. You need to schedule your job seeking time. Now, by that I mean, make sure if you're looking at the vacancies, which one has to be in first. You know, don't wait to the very last minute and have to do the selection criteria and all the things. You know, some jobs will tell you that there's 2 weeks to put in for it, and it'll have a closing date. So you can guarantee that nobody's going to look at any of those jobs until that closing date. But for the other ones, where it doesn't have a closing date, they might get a good applicant in the first few people who put it in, and they'll just shut the job. Because people don't want to spend a lot of time with a lot of you know, people putting in applications for their vacancies.
Awara tu mi to le ni ya adu ba mi te mi to bu ni du ba ta to lo kha lo ba ge yue wa ma ta pu lo ni ne tu ba u kho la ni do to ma ko ro to ro ri pe wa te wa hi na ta se to ni do ni to lo ko ro ho to no ni awe pe sa to bu ni we pe wi de wi lo awe ni wa ma ta pu li ne chu mo la no to ni do ni se ki li o ja ni ke ro la te.
So each CV or resume, sometimes they're called, and covering letter sent must fit the job. Because remember, it's a competition, so if you don't actually emphasize the bits that they're looking for in their ad or in the selection criteria, then you'll just get put to the side in the beginning.
Awara na ba plo da ta ma la na to ro ni de ba ga ba mi la na ma o ti na ma o ke na ma o ni no na ta u chu kli de ba gi ba mi lo la ma ta ma chen ni ta u chu kli gi na ta u chu kli mi de gi ta ma we mi no go ba no de mi ba gi yu thwa na ba ya.
A lot of jobs for which you need your educational qualifications will have a contact person. So say if you want any further information, contact, you know, whoever. It's really important to use that person for two reasons. First reason is you need to have good questions, so you can actually look at and find out a bit, you know, do your research, find out about that organisation, and then ask specific questions. Who are they looking for? What sort of thing is the most important, etc. Then you can put your CV or whatever towards that. The second question, hang on a second. Yes. Yeah. So did you hear? Before applying for the position, you contact the person. Okay? But get good questions. Have done your research about the department or whatever, the business before you do. Contact that person. The second reason is because then they will remember your name. So that's why you need to have good questions. Because if you ask, you know, you'll have more information so you can apply better, but also you've already made contact. So you've already started to establish that relationship. They're going to remember you or whoever is calling them.
The blood connie, the what Johnny Tati kwa me one minim the gamma secloya, no? A return in Munatin in the secloragan, no? No return a redula the clun and thought I'm our thing and million here, covering the seclo hitter, two tagelamo, I think and millie, we burn anything as secone, Tano call a tag road puller, low about in your one, your deal and you let here. And the Takataya are all on the one of the Nitama, no?
So second last point, have answers to typical questions. Lots of interviews will actually ask you the same, similar sorts of questions, and then some specific ones for that particular job, or that particular 1, 2, 3 people who might be the panel interviewing you. Okay, so it might not be just one person. In a government position, it's likely to be 2 or 3. So in the workshops that I'll be running, we'll be practicing those sorts of typical questions and how you might answer them. Okay, so we've got look at sort of accounting type positions, what sort of questions they might ask, you know, any other sort of vacancies that people who come along are doing or are interested in. We'll look at those questions and give you practice at doing that, practice at being interviewed. Okay, so the last point is really important all the time, so you're always smiling, and when you get, if you do get a job application, you have to smile on the telephone when you're actually ringing up about it as well, because people can get that information over the, you know, online. You need to smile when you get to reception, not just when you get to the interview. Because some people will actually say to the person at the front, so which person would you choose? Pardon?
The blood connie get a jammer, the telephone is a clodalini, what the teacher and Meta in the telephone on the seclodama Kurgan in the money, in Meta, Tanning winning about Tobu, maybe on a letter on it, and then the other reception Lomia, the banning me on the mat, the Danny in each. The blood connie the Tinyama, Tama Kunig, because a reception, Regale, or the Tani Tati Agtergale, but they were going over it or he was Tama.
Yeah, if it's close and I can't decide if I want you or you, then people often say, so what did you think? And they'll say, oh, well, such and such was the most enthusiastic. Or, you know, they asked me something, or they had really good manners, or whatever they say.
Who need the blood connie work if you go attack again, agree, Kiga, you pellegale, you pellegan, attacking about the work of Hatani, we are Tarilumun, wheat, but in Targani Jolly, no?
And the other thing is, if you're in the interview and you don't understand the question, it might not be your English. It might be, if you're being interviewed in English, it might be it's not a very good question. That it doesn't actually, you're not sure whether they're asking this or they're asking that. Because remember, in Tasmania, the majority of businesses are owned by ordinary people who don't necessarily have skills at employing people, okay? So smile and ask them to repeat the question. You can also say, are you looking for, blah, 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 you know, because you're not really sure which way they want you to answer. There's nothing wrong with doing that. I know that's not what's usual in some cultures, but that's perfectly okay here.
Ahora từ lần này ahora nami đã napa anh ấy đi nó bắt sigua, na hasi segera lagi, no? Ta lần sigua đó này chạy đôi mà napa những mình mà sigua đó nó, na ta napa aku ni sigua đó này đi chạy về đôi nó.
This is another one to take.
Ta được khăn này đi đôi mà nó.
Slide.
Ni na hasi sen na cuy ani berada waktu cuma ni ta napa kalau apa ini.
Okay, so are there any questions anybody has?
Ta sigua over ini no, sigua đó over.
Yes? Oh, May, sorry. What a surprise.
Website pa ni un. Nhìn khá nhà nha.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. So I will answer the question, but I will also tell you to use the resources online. If you actually just Google for typical interview questions or something, types of questions asked at the interview, you'll get them for a whole lot of different areas. Okay. So as I said, they'll always ask you questions to tell you a little bit about yourself, because that's settling in question. They will expect that you understand something about the organisation. So they might say something like, so what do you understand about our organisation? Okay, and they will often say after that question, so how do you think your skills might fit in? Okay, so then they'll start to ask you specific questions about that job. So if you can, look up, you know, and understand whether it's just a couple of people that are in that organisation or if there's 200 and anywhere in between. Because that will actually give you a better idea about where that position fits in. And that is a question you can actually ask the contact person before. Okay, so how many people are in the accounting team, the accounting division or the accounting team? Or will I be working by myself, or, you know, are there some other people that are, yeah, so if you're going to be team, it will actually often give you a clue by saying, you know, one of the selection criteria is working in a team or something like that. Or are you good at working on your own? Okay, so, yeah.
To the jobs and the companies.
Yes.
Do you think that if I do like a brief introduction for myself is a better choice?
What, at the beginning of the interview?
Like to contact the people.
Contact the people. Yeah. So if I'm an employer and I'm a small employer, and if 200 people applied for the job and they all contacted me, do you think I'd be happy? No. So if they say a contact person, then that person will have time to actually answer questions, right? But there's no problem. When you're going to the interview, don't forget that you're on show the whole time. So if they are looking for someone who's very strong and able to work independently or go and meet community organisations or something like that, well, it's in your best interest to talk and to be leading them a little bit, but don't push them where they don't want to go. Yes. Can you talk a little? Oh, sorry, Jade's coming.
Yeah, I can hold it. You talk. Yeah.
No, I used to call the contact person after the application, but most of the time they won't pick up the call. Almost silent. But same time I used to call from them. One thing is, what your number is given in the resume, if it matches with the number, what you call, they maybe check it. So the person's already interested, the same number is calling again and again, so we can call for the interview.
I don't understand.
No, actually, the contact person, most of the time, they won't pick up the call. but the number what he phone number given in the resume, right? He called from the same number, didn't notice, and didn't call me for the visit.
Okay.
I realized, and I had feelings on it.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the number of the organisation is distinct from the contact. Oh, okay. Right. So now I understand. Yes. Sorry. The next thing is that if you ring from a different number than what's on your resume, then they won't pick up the call.
No, even if you call from a phone number, most of the time they won't pick up the call. But in the phone record, they will have phone number. So they contact, they have the person, the name, Manila, the number is interested.
Staying
So
outside,
they
I
can call
think.
for interview.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah. Did you have a question? Oh. Okay. So these are the jobs. Oh, sorry. Question. Yeah.
So, are there any type of website focusing on specific areas, like the Tasmanian focus or certain industry? Because I think some website maybe the big company might prefer to use Think, for example. So maybe some small companies prefer something.
Okay. So the government websites will have, and the three of them that I gave you, they will have jobs from just their specific area. So the actual, there is a website that the state government has created that actually says most of the jobs that are in Tasmania, but it doesn't have all of them. But the major companies, thank you for asking the question because I forgot to say this. The major big manufacturing companies like the Zinc Works, the Tasminco, which is the smoke that comes out up the river, Cadbury, etc. And they all have their own websites. So, and they all have their own vacancies on those websites. And some of those vacancies are graduates, interns, positions, etc. Okay. So there's, we don't have a whiteboard, do we?
Yeah, didn't bring it out.
Okay, so I can write those companies up. The other thing is that really good way to get experience is to actually go through labour hire companies, which are, they're the ones who, they employ you and they send you out to some other company to work. Okay. So there's a whole list of these at the back over there. You can pick them up. So, and if it might be that you can type really well, for instance. And so that's just a skill you have. Then you might go to one of the ones that does administration, and you might actually register with them, and they will then send you out to this company to work for a week when someone's away, or out to this company, etc. But you're employed by the labour hire company. Or the other ones on this list are recruitment agencies, and some of them are both. So they're on here. So the ones that are recruitment agencies, the state government and other big companies sometimes use them as well, because they then will pick a whole range of applicants, they will interview them, and then they'll just send a couple to the organisation, or just the person who they say is the best person for the job. Okay? Yes.
So I want to share some information with everybody, because here, actually most of them, or all of them, are job agents. So some people will think the agent will take money from me, but actually it's not. The job agent will take more money from the company and pay you fairly, such as I work for Southern Park and Pinnacle People. They are very good. I work for Pinnacle People for about 3 years, and the client, the company, give me very good comment. So one day, when I plan to move to Adelaide, so I went to Adelaide Pinnacle People. They check my comments, and said, oh, you did a lot of shifts and the company gave you good comments. So I would like to use you, but I didn't move to there. But technical people can stay to transport. So your job, such as when you move to another city, you can get job from them. And such as, you know, the milk, what's the
Cadbury.
No, Tasmanian milk.
Cadbury, that's chocolate.
Chocolate, yeah.
The company and another one in Lino Valley, that's a
That's Pura, yeah.
because I don't drink milk, but roughly remember. So they use the stuff from the agent too. I think the agent is in Muna. I visited them. I think a program.
Programs,
We
yes. Yeah.
got here too. Yes, program.
Yeah.
So you can, after the function, you can go there and ask them, such as a Pura. They use you roughly, that's a very big shift, such as from overnight, 1 week you work 3 days, but one shift about 12 hours, and another 3 days or 4 days will be off. So because I plan to look for job before, I've been there, but once you just remember to follow up, if you don't follow up, you can't get job.
Yeah.
So all of my job, I followed up nearly half year.
Yeah.
Some of I got 3 full-time jobs in Tasmania and plenty of part-time jobs. The full-time jobs, I nearly followed up about one is 1 year, another one is a half year.
How often during that 1 year you follow up?
Once I don't have the time, I don't drive. So once I pass through there, then I remember, I go there to visit.
Yes, that's really important. The major reason it's really important is that if let's say Vanelli comes in and I'm the person in the office, then I will forget her. And I'll remember the people who came in later. But when she comes back in on a regular basis, I know she's really keen. Yeah. So, and as a human, I will remember that. So then she'll have a better chance than anybody else for that job that comes up. Then it'll be her. So yes, definitely follow up. In the beginning, they will say often, just put your resume in. So then ring and, you know, and call in and say, hi, and this is who I am. Because otherwise you're going to be just a name on a piece of paper. Okay. So, yes, yeah. Yes.
Do I want to go there often to
yeah. Next to the names of the agencies, you've got the sorts of jobs that they're looking for, usually. So as, I'm sorry, I've forgotten you. That's right. As Lisa said, one company, Pura Milk, uses one agency. So they will more than likely use them for any type of work that they get. But if you look, and they have many different roles, right? But if you look at program skills on this, which is the top right-hand corner, it says general labour hire, okay, trades and labourers, technical and scientific lab management, supervisory manufacturing, okay? But they will suddenly, they might have Pura Milk, which is a manufacturing company producing milk, but it will have, you know, cleaners and all of these other people. And so someone goes off on holidays, that's how they replace them, okay? And then they're there, they get known, so if they want, a job comes up, then they use them, okay.
Lesley, can I ask you to write down the zinc company related agency you mentioned earlier?
I didn't actually say that.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah, I know what I'll do.
Yeah, okay, yeah, something that you wanted to write.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So at the moment, a couple of weeks ago, Programs, which is the one that we're just talking about, I got it copied into an email that said they were looking for, in Hobart, they were looking for gardeners, brush cutters, production workers at Cadbury's, 15 of them, store worker forklift operators, riggers, boiler makers, civil construction workers, and machinery operators. Okay, so if you were here studying, but you actually worked in a factory somewhere else, operating a machine, then please say that. Yeah, don't just go for the qualification that you're going for to start with. So let me find this major list and then I should get out of here.
Yeah, no hurry. How about when you read it, I'll share a few points that go back to some points you were talking about. So Lesley talked about network. It's very important in Tasmania, right? But we're migrants. I'm not good at small talks. How do I approach people? You know, it's still difficult for me to go to a party and then talk to people to know them and later. It takes practice. First of all, tell yourself it takes practice. And then secondly, in your own community, start organizing practice sessions. I'm planning to start practice sessions in the Chinese community, for example. And then slowly we'll build our capacity. Potu, do you need to translate? Yeah.
Ini awak hama nyonya kali ni ya, mata kon popuni bang nyo telu pagala huda majale pagba tera dile ni tarilu mulu mono.
And those sessions always is very important to invite local friends to teach us. I think I already have someone in mind to teach and invite to our Chinese community, and I can help with other cultural group to do the same.
The blood con it was con even colawala to corbani. The huda man and dile teja the harilu mulu bang nyo jale. Work when you con even mahete or the corala apart of work, you know.
Secondly, I want to mention what Lesley said earlier about look for things that you like doing. But if there's nothing available, you just want to get in the company first, do it anyway. This is how that girl in blue line story came about. Lesley's advice is absolutely right. A lot of employers these days only look for people who are passionate about some jobs. However, if I can convince myself I'm passionate about something about this job, I can stay in this job while look for another one maybe in the same company.
Awara the blood con in the matamani, no, Tamalo can in the Lua Holla or Cani, no, at the law who are pegani alone Bama on the Bayu Tamaba. Tama Lord Caracani, or Lua Loa to Chuta Gamara can happen anyway. Negabahi never call a Dakotaya Kotaka any law. To let Tamalan the Lua Nicola who had the blood on the canoe, any pet in the mass of the Tohan.
I used to work for city council in Gold Coast. When I apply for the job, it's only very short, 1 month. I still went and I stayed there for 3 years. It can be longer if I did not quit the job.
When I got when you were my young Tamala Gold Coast learning hot gain in here, Bakala Madame Council, young Dimna in here, Talana, you were Mala in here.
The lesson I want to share with everyone is that job I applied for in the beginning is not what I like a lot, but I got into the organization to learn how they work. And then I can think about how I want to do the things I like.
Tamala Saramahani yet to Chaibana, Yamala Pagani when in here. Now Tamaloni or Dodunya could sugar tea, like Latanu, Blosatina, or Yamamuli the car, a law who low blow you pull on my when you
So in a sense, I think it's still a passion, you know. I feel very happy when I'm learning the work culture of the organization, learn how within their different sectors they work together. So that helps me doing things later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last thing I want to mention is when you write a CV, like Lesley said, make sure you spend time on it. I'm just relaying another person's comments, another speaker who's not here. He said he met someone who has master and PhD degree, but the CV looked like just put together very quickly. There's no use, you know. Master and PhD take years. You need to at least put in 1 week to write a CV.
Nilin lela na gina kun kwen ma kwen mi lo ti mi ti mi cha la ri do de pa ne ba pa mo do ra no na ma li go do na ba hita sa do do ni nya mo.
Last thing I want to mention is when you write your CV, there's a cover letter, and then there's little items. They are very different. Many people want to list their qualifications in the cover letter. Don't do that. Cover letter is to tell people what kind of person you are. I'm a people person. I like creative thinking. I do this and that. I work well in team. And then all those qualifications, your education, leave it to the CV part. Cover letter need to allow you to show people what kind of person you are. You need to pop out. It's 3D.
Aku ne o ki to mo no o da to ne ba nyo nai phele de lu ma te fla mi shin o da kha ga lu lo da ta si ta ba u do na da ni chu pwe to ma da phele ta ma u ta kha ni aku ne ta ki kha ne ba ke klo ba mo de ra no ado ya ni ma ra ma chu ma da wa ga ne si ye tu chu sa ge ma na ni ye mu to ko e ya ta ti da pan ma kwe lo kha lo mo de ra no.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to talk more because I'm aware of time. But we do hope that forum like this can sustain into the future and then run on regular intervals. So whoever needs advice or suggestions sometime can just come in.
No. Aku ni ko ni ta kan be ro se ma lo mo no. Wala lu ata ma che ta ki fa ni lo se klo bo ra mo ra.
Thank you, everyone. I just want to add one more bit about where do you put the selection criteria? Yeah, so some people actually included it as their cover letter. So they say attached is the responses to the selection criteria. You can send it, responses to the selection criteria, as a separate document, but that actually makes it a bit hard for the people at the other end. They've got to stick everything together. So on the different pages of your resume, etc., because often they print them out, you need to have your name, etc. So if they get misplaced, they can all get put back together to be for you. But often you can look at the things that are in your resume or your CV within the covering letter. So you just draw their attention to, but not saying it's exactly the same words. Say, okay, so you can see from my resume when I was working for blah, 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 this is, what I gained that fits with what you're looking for. So you're pinpointing different parts of the selection criteria that you can see.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, mate.
One question about related to the resume. Because, sorry, can I interrupt? I'm aware of time. Is it okay that you take your question during the break to Lesley individually? Because if anyone, it's about break time, have some tea, coffee, some food, and then we will have a second speaker coming on quickly. Yeah.
Quickly.